Now, after watching Multiverse of Madness and watching this whole first season of Moon Knight, I think I can go ahead and say that Marvel is really trying to say, hey, we are not super kid-friendly anymore. Moon Knight stars Osacr Isaac, Ethan Hawke, and May Calloway, and is about Stephen Grant discovers he's been granted the powers of Egyptian moon god, but he soon finds out that these newfound powers can be both a blessing and a curse to his troubled life. Beginning with my positives is Osacr Isaac. He is the reason to watch this show. He plays a character with different personality traits. We have Stephen, a British dweeb, and then we have Mark, a pretty badass soldier, and when they are just two different people in the same performance of a body, that is really hard to do for an actor. For Osacr Isaac, it looked like easy as pie, honestly. I mean, he was just outstanding. Osacr Isaac is really good in this show. I think this might be his best performance of his entire career. He is so good in this show. Switching between these two characters, when we meet him in the very beginning of the show, it is Steven, and he's just a really lovable dweeb that is like late to work, whatever. He chains himself to his bed because he knows he's a different personality trait, and when he completely finds out, oh, this different personality inside my body is like a super soldier. Oh, he's also being like abducted by this like Egyptian god that turns him to a really cool superhero named Moon Knight. It's a whole life struggle. When we meet Mark's wife, Layla, a character that at first I was like, is she gonna be just a damsel in distress? Not at all. She's her own badass self, and the entire show, when we get to meet her more and more, you learn that she is like really sad that Mark is gone. She misses her husband, so it adds another dynamic between them two. And obviously we'll get more into spoilers of the finale and stuff, but her as a character I thought was a good development. I do have one little issue, but again, we'll get to it in a little bit. But Layla as a character, introducing to her, I thought it added a good dynamic between Mark and Steven and her. And then, of course, we have Ethan Hawke. And this is where it gets more into my cons, really. But Ethan Hawke did a good job acting. He did a really good job. His whole performance is very well done. I'm sorry, I don't like his superpowers, I don't like his total being of being there, and I just think he was really a boring villain. Honestly, it's always been a con for Marvel stuff, and with this one, I see no difference. I think Ethan Hawke's character is so boring as a villain, and I know people will like love him as a villain. That's totally fine if you disagree with me, but for me, he was boring, and his superpowers, I mean, they're not even really superpowers, but it's really boring stuff. Now we're getting more into the spoilers of the show and more into the finale. And I'm gonna go and start with the saying, I was nervous for this finale because obviously all the Disney Plus shows try to have big action scenes and wrap up a bunch of storylines. For this show, kind of the same deal. You have your big action stuff with Ethan Hawke fighting Moon Knight and Layla, her brand new suit, which this is my issue I was talking about. I don't think her as a character. She's a nice dynamic between her, Mark, and Steven, but she never, for me, got the build-up as a character to get this big moment to get her suit. That's just me. She's a really cool character, but it just never, this didn't add like a wow factor, which I think it was trying to do. I was just like, cool, good for her. I wasn't really like, whoa. Totally reminded me of Wonder Woman's 1984 suit, the little golden suit she had. Totally reminded me of that. But like in the show, it didn't build up enough character for me. I was like, yeah, good for her. And like I said, Ethan Hawke as a villain, this whole finale, he's just taking people's souls, I guess. He's giving it to this big Egyptian alligator. And I was just like, there's your basic villain stuff. I mean, for me, it just really was basic. I didn't care anything about Ethan Hawke's villain. I thought he was so just boring, if you ask me. I mean, his good performance and all, but his best performance in this entire show was when we were in Mark's and Steven's head in this asylum, basically, and seeing him as the doctor. I thought that was a really good performance, and that was more intriguing than more of him just walking around with a cane stepping on glass. In the end, though, we do see them defeat Ethan Hawke. He goes to an asylum himself. We do see, apparently, that the suit does leave Mark and Steven's head, and it ends with them just wake up in bed. They finally realize they can control one another and stuff like that, and I was like, alright, cool, good character development. And then it just ends. I was like, oh, is that it? And then, of course, we get a mid-credit scene, which is very interesting. Apparently, he has a third personality, and he does not speak English, and his name is Jack, I believe, and it was really cool. I mean, he goes into the limo, whatever, and the bird thing is sitting there with a suit on. He's like, Mark and Steven don't realize that they have more damage in their head than they realize. Meet Jack, and it's this guy who's like an assassin. And I was like, oh, alright. And then it ends. I was like, okay, he kills Ethan Hawke. I was like, alright, that's definitely interesting. So hopefully we get a season 2, or he continues in some type of movie. Overall, I really think Osacr Isaac's acting and character is the reason to watch this show. Like I said, I thought Ethan Hawke's villain was very, very boring and bland. I did not care for this villain at all. I really like the character development of Mark and Steven, but the adventure, the actual Egyptian adventure they're going on, never intrigued me. I was so just sitting there like, what are we building to, and all that kind of stuff. And by the end of it, I was like, alright, so it's a temple thing. It's basically kind of like Indiana Jones in the Egyptian area, which is really cool to see in a different type of Marvel show. I 100% agree. It's cool to see difference in this. I like all that stuff. I just thought the story itself was never as interesting as the character alone of Osacr Isaac. But overall, I like the difference in the show Marvel's taking. I'm liking the adult themes, the adultness of this show. I'm telling you, I would not let my, if I had kids, I wouldn't let them watch the show. It's not a kid-friendly show, and I think kids could actually see this show as being boring. But by the end of it, Osacr Isaac is the reason to watch this show, and I think his performance should be talked about in some type of awards for the Emmys or something like that, because he's that good in this show. I'm gonna give Moon Knight Season 1 a B. So now my question for you is, what has been your favorite Disney Plus Marvel show? A lot of people love to debate this, and honestly, I see this as one of the best ones they've made, honestly. It's really well done, it's very different, and heck, by the end of it, I saw really no connections between anything of Marvel show at all. You could watch a show and probably watch none of the Marvel movies or shows. It's its own thing, which is a good thing, but for some people it might be like, what was the point in that? For my mom, that's what she said. She's like, what was the point in that? There was any connection of what sorts? I was like, I don't know. Anyway, guys, enjoy this show review, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.